What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Tastes Like Music. Jason and Joe here. Doing a classic album review today. This one was voted on by our patrons over on Patreon. We are talking about the 1970 double album by Derek and the Dominos called Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs. It's their only album, a supergroup of sorts made up of Eric Clapton, Bobby Whitlock, Carl Radle, Jim Gordon, Duane Allman. Executive produced by Tom Dowd. We have been doing this channel for 4.5 years. And for a name like Clapton, we have talked about him shockingly little over those 4.5 years. Just passing mentions here and there. We haven't really dug into much of his work at all. We never covered Cream. We never covered his solo discography, and oddly, hardly requested at all. No one ever mentions him. It maybe has to do with the fact that he completed his transformation into a supervillain right when we started the channel in 2020. But yeah, we haven't talked about him much. My feelings on him overall are kind of lukewarm. I have seen him live, and it was a good show, but yeah, I don't know. I think maybe he's a little overrated, or at least was, and maybe what we're seeing is that sort of thinking of him coming down to earth a bit in recent years.
Well, they proclaimed Clapton as God after what John Lennon said the Beatles were bigger than Jesus, and they wrote Clapton as God on the wall or whatever. And yeah, I mean, Cream was pretty good, and you know, he did some super roof stuff with Blind Faith before Derek and the Dominos, and then I just feel like the '70s hit, and he kind of turned into a soft rock and just sort of boring. I don't know. It's like guitar taken to its least interesting avenues. And he still has some good songs. I just talked about in the '74 video how much I like Let It Rain. But songs like that also, stood hand in hand with songs like After Midnight and Cocaine, which, blues covers that made it big on the radio, but I've never really found very interesting at all. So, my feelings, Clapton, are pretty mixed, but I think here maybe we found what Clapton should have been after Cream.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get into this one. Did anyone have this in their top five of 70?
I I think it was my number six.
Let me try to look that up real quick here.
And I don't know if I mentioned it in the video or not, but it was right there. But I didn't make mine. I don't recall Rams are having it either.
Yeah, as I thought I remembered, did not make any of our top fives, which is kind of interesting. All right, let's get into it though. Songwriting on this record. Overall, I think it's excellent. The bulk of the originals here were written by Clapton and Bobby Whitlock. Whitlock, I think, turns out to be a great partner for Eric Clapton on this. I think the songs are really melodic, really soulful. Lyrically, it feels like it's coming from a very real place and things that Clapton's going through and things that he's feeling. Just a plethora of great songs here. I Looked Away, Bell Bottom Blues, Keep on Growing, Any Day, Layla, of course. Tell the Truth is great. Uh, Why Does Love Got to Be So Sad is one I like a lot as well. Just tons and tons of good songs. So yeah, great.
Yeah, I think of all the albums written about wanting to bang your best friend's wife, this has got to be top one or two at least. The songwriting here, and you got to think that Bobby Whitlock was the key to unlocking, between Bobby Whitlock and having a muse like Patty Boyd, George Harrison's wife, or girlfriend or whatever it was. I think Clapton finally had stuff to say and something to focus, his talents on. And it works, I think, better than anything he had ever done before, anything he ever did after. The songwriting is just on point. And it helps that, everyone's top-notch performances and everything like that. But, lyrically, I think it's pretty good. There's no, sort of cheesy, embarrassing later Clapton kind of songwriting lyrics. And the songs themselves are tour de forces. They're bluesy, but they're never boring at all. I think his originals are great, and the way they transform all the covers. There's not very many moments on this album. Maybe um, Key to the Highway, really the only time where it's like, okay, you start to notice the length a little bit of these songs. But I think overall they do a great job of transforming the covers and the love songs, the songs like Bell Bottom Blues and Layla, to tell the truth, Any Day, Keep on Growing, I Looked Away. They're all just really excellent songs. And yeah, the way that they're able to focus on Patty Boyd and love and Heartsick and whatever, I think really helps them, complete the album without going off base and throwing on stuff that doesn't belong. It's just a really great piece of songwriting by Clapton and Whitlock and uh, all the other guys who wrote the songs that they covered.
The musicianship, I mean, a lot has been said about Clapton and Duane Allman's guitar playing on this record, and I think rightfully so. I think there's a ton of really cool guitar work on this record, but I don't think they deserve all the glory. Jim Gordon's drumming, I think, is sensational on this record. Bobby Whitlock's keys are great. And I think I've said it the few times I've mentioned Clapton, I'd like to include usually how good of a singer I think he is. Very underrated vocally. Yeah, very strong vocals. And Whitlock sings some on the record as well, and his vocals are good. So yeah, all around just strong performances in pretty much every aspect, not just the guitar playing.
Yeah, I agree that Clapton is a very good singer, especially early in his career. The Cream stuff, I thought he's a really good singer on. And I think here he's at the peak of his powers. Again, just having something to channel. Sometimes he comes off as sort of a wanker, a bluesy guy that just is too talented. But here with the guitar playing, I think is all excellent. Duane Allman's slide guitar are phenomenal, stratospheric, to almost zippy and cartoonish at some points, just all over the place. It's great. Clapton's licks. I love that guitar solo in Bell Bottom Blues where he's just wringing every ounce of emotion out of the neck, and it's like almost unhearable. Um, and yeah, his vocals, I think he sounds real. He sounds heartbroken. He sounds like he's really feeling the things he's singing about, which, with Clapton, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes it feels like an act. But here, yeah, I think he does his best work to sound real and affected by, his broken heart.
The production, I think, is pretty good. It's serviceable. The sound reminds me a little bit of like All Things Must Pass, which also came out in 1970. It's got that kind of a little bit of like a wall of sound. There's so many layers of guitars on some of these songs, and there's a good bit of reverb. And I think the songs could have actually been a little more impactful with a slightly drier sound. Um, it's not a huge problem. It doesn't make me not like the record. I do think there is a like a mix of this record though that could be even better.
Yeah, it's definitely not overly polished. I think there's a pretty healthy layer of grit and grime and reverb on the recording. Sometimes it gets downright like garagey almost. And I think that works though with the music. It's kind of ragged, just like Eric Clapton's mindset. And he used a 5-watt amp for the recording. So it really like you can hear it straining and like cracking as it tries to keep up with his playing. And I think that adds to sort of the brokenness of it all, the garaginess. It's not too slick, which is a problem I have with later Eric Clapton recordings. But not here. I think it works really well with the subject matter and what they're doing.
Best and worst tracks. Best for me is Bell Bottom Blues, which interestingly doesn't have Duane Allman on it. It was recorded before he showed up. But yeah, I just think the melody and the vocal performance and everything about that track is just fantastic. Worst track for me would be Key to the Highway, which is like a nice blues number, but it's nearly 10 minutes long. I think it goes on a little long, and it's not up to the level of some of the other original material. It's just kind of like them sort of jamming. It's good playing, but not quite as impactful.
Yeah, favorite's got to be, I guess, well, my song of the year of 1970 was Layla, so I guess I have to stick with that. But right there with it, Bell Bottom Blues. And I mean, I think all of their originals just kick ass for the most part. Least favorite, gotta go with Key to the Highway. It's just too long. Could have been like a 2.5 minute bluesy, vamp. But it's almost 10 minutes long and it kind of drags there for the last 7.5 minutes. So.
Yeah, scores for this. I am at 4.5, not quite a 5 star. I do think some of the bluesier numbers, the covers, not that any of it's bad, it's just doesn't need to be a double album. I think if you take just the songs that I rattled off as highlights, you've got like a 5 star record. And I think there's some, extraneous stuff here. So 4.5, it's great. Like it a lot. The originals especially fantastic.
I do have it at 5 stars. It was my number six, and it's probably still in the top 10. It might actually be in my top five at this point of 1970. So I got to go with 5 stars. I think it's a pretty remarkable record, and definitely, if you want to like and appreciate Eric Clapton, it's probably the one I would start with.
Yeah, I don't know where this would land in 70 for me. It's obviously it wasn't in my top five. I don't think it would be upon re-listening to it this week. It has a chance of maybe being top 10, but I don't know. Maybe somewhere between 10 and 15 feels maybe more realistic. I'm trying to think of everything in 70. Yeah, I don't know. It's somewhere around 10-ish probably for me. Any other final thoughts on the record?
I love the cover. Love the artwork on it. Really great stuff. I have it over there somewhere. I should have brought it out, but really iconic looking cover. And it wasn't painted for the album. It was a piece of art that he saw and liked, but uh really works well with the theme and everything. Good record design, good cover design, all the stuff. Good stuff.
All right. Well, let us know what you think of this record. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button, subscribe. Check us out on Patreon if you'd like to submit requests for our classic album polls or vote in them. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.